Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me for Try It Out Tuesday. Today we're going to create with the Pie Perfection collection. This is a collection that I designed for Spellbinders and I haven't created with it in a while. And I wasn't sure if I shared with you guys how to create the cards that were on the packaging. And so I thought what we'd do is create these two cards today using the Skyview pies. This is one of my favorites. Actually, I love all of Pie Perfection collection. They're so much fun. But I'm going to use this one, and then we're going to create a little pie box using the baker's box for this, and we'll create this card. Now, this is pattern paper in the background. I'm not going to use pattern papers. I thought we would just use the stencil. This is the picnic checkerboard stencil, and I thought that would go good in the background. So we're going to modify it just a little bit, but I thought I'd show you how to create these pies. These pies look so real, and it'll make you want apple pie or cherry pie or blueberry pie. It'll have you craving it, that's for sure. Let's jump in and start by doing a little bit of stenciling first. We'll create our background. And I'm going to go ahead and take my stencil, and we're going to do both of our backgrounds at once. I have 3 different Distress Oxide inks. I have Chip Sapphire, I have Stormy Sky, and I also have Tumbled Glass. And I have daubers for each one of these. And I'm going to go ahead and start with my Chip Sapphire. And I'm going to add a little bit of color. Maybe going in a diagonal here. And I want some darker areas, so I'm going to darken up some of these squares. Then I'll go in with my next color, which is Stormy Sky, if I can remember. And then I'm going to go in with my Tumbled Glass, which is a very pale blue. And I think that looks wonderful. Let's go ahead and remove this. I love the way this looks. And we're going to put this one off to the side. For my next panel, we have a panel that measures 3 3/4 inches wide by 5 inches tall. I went ahead and cleaned off my stencil here. I'm going to use 2 different grays of Distress Oxide ink. I have Pumice Stone, which is more on the warmer side, and then I have Hickory Smoke. We're going to bring in my blending tools here. And I'm going to go over my background very lightly with my Pumice Stone. I just want a pale gray background. After I have my Pumice Stone, I'm going to use the same blending tool and just add a little bit of darker areas, kind of randomly. Just so it's kind of sporadic, I guess you could say. And then I'm going to lift up my stencil, and I'm loving the way that looks. But I'm going to take my stencil, and now I'm going to cover up those squares that we just colored in. You can see them underneath it. I'll tack down my stencil, and then I'm going to go back over it with my Pumice Stone. And then I'll put this away. I'll pick a little bit of the darker ink, and we'll do the same thing, hopefully in some different spots. And I think that'll work. So then we should have a checkerboard background with some outlines. Kind of like subway tile. Love the way. I think that's going to work out great. It's not quite. I think it's pretty close to our X's and O, and I think we can get away with that. I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and then we're going to do some die cutting. I went ahead and did all of my die cutting to create my card because it's little bit time consuming, so I saved a bit of time. I'm going to share with you the colors of cardstock that I used in case you guys use Spellbinders Color Essential cardstock. Sometimes it's nice to know. This is Barely Peach. We'll make a peach pie with this. I cut out 2 of the circles with, and this is all from Skyview Pies, with the exception of these pieces and these. This is Phone Booth. I need 2 of these. This one here is Raindrop, I believe. Yes, Raindrop. And then my pie crusts are created with Dune, which is this. And I did die cut out some foam using Spellbinders pop-up foam with my crust die here, and then also the top pieces. I want to share with you a few tips and tricks on creating a real dimensional crust. This is a lot of dimension to it. Now, if you use your embossing mat with this die, it creates a most beautiful pie crust. But you don't have to have an embossing mat. If you take a piece of foam, let me show you, and just layer it. Make sure the foam is big enough for your pie crust. If you layer it on top of the cardstock with the foam and then run this through your die cut machine, you'll get beautiful, beautiful embossed crust. So just a little trick. You don't have to tape them together, but just run them through at the same time like this and you get a beautiful crust every time, I promise. I wish I could get the same crust baking, but I can't. Okay, now I also wanted to share with you one more thing. To create this pie center and to get it perfectly centered, I find it easier to die cut the little vent piece first. There's 2 vent pieces. One has like teardrop shapes, and the other one has little hearts. So this will work with both of them. Run this through your die cut machine. I ran it through. When you run it through, there is a center little dot, like on here. On both pieces has a little center dot. Okay, take that piece, flip it around, line up your die with that center dot, and take your die on the second run through. You can tack it down, and you will get it centered every time. Here, let me show you. Because basically, you see how it's perfectly centered? So that's a little tidbit and trick. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put this one back since we already did that. And I don't want to lose them. The next set of dies that we're going to use, and we're going to create this card too again, is the baker's box. I created one box just using this die, and that created this piece. Okay, and then I added the window like this, and then that created this piece. And then there is lots of sentiment banners in here. I die cut out this, oops, let me show you, this sentiment banner here that has the fishtail and it has the hole in it for a sentiment. So that, I do want to mention that I did die cut these out with my 80-pound cardstock. Thinner weight cardstock is better for these. And then using the inside score lines as a guide, I cut out a piece of acetate. This is a little less, the inside window here, inside of the box, when you fold it, let me show you, like this, and like this, and like this. Okay. The box size itself, after you fold it in, is 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So this window piece is just less than 2.5 inches. And it fits perfectly in there. Okay? I'm going to put these aside. We're going to build our box. We're going to create our Skyview pie card. We're going to create this card first, and then we'll create this card second. Okay? So I want to put this off to the side. And then I do want to mention that I did die cut out some servingware. I have a pie server and I have a fork and a knife, and that was created with my Pie Perfection Dish It Up die set. So our utensils are done, and we're going to be using this piece to cut a slice, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And as far as my embellishments go, I have delicious decorations. I have 2 flowers created with this one. And then with the single leaf right here, I cut out 2 different colors of green leaves. And then this leaf here, 3 blueberries. This is the blueberry die. And then 1 of the flower centers. There's 2 in there. One's perfectly round and one's like a small flower. I used the one that, we're going to use the one that looks like a small flower. So that's it for the delicious decorations. So 4 die sets today to create our cards. And Spellbinders, I believe, still has this collection in their store. So I'll link everything down below, which makes it really nice. Are you ready to create some pies? Now, I like to have a little bit of dimension on my pies. And you'll notice that if you have the packaging for my Skyview pies, that there is, looks like sugar on there. And I think it looks realistic, but to create that realistic look, the glue absorbed my oxide inks. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to use some oxide inks on our crust here. So let me grab my finger daubers and my vintage photo. That's a well-loved finger dauber. It might fall apart. I might have to get a new one. So we're going to put our colored pieces aside and bring in our pie crust here. I'm gonna ink over the edges with my vintage photo, kind of fading into the middle. All of my pie crusts are nice and toasty. I'm going to go ahead and use my glue, and we're going to add some behind the top layer of the crust, and then we're going to layer this on our foam. So we have a little bit of dimension to the crust, and then we're going to take our circles. This is the fun part. I'm going to take this piece and add a little glue behind the back side, and we're going to tack this right down over the blue. With the lattice crust, we're going to add glue behind our lattice crust. We're going to tack down this one over the Barely Peach, kind of centering it. And then I'll take another one and we're going to add this to our phone booth cardstock, our red cardstock. And our last one that has the vented top, we'll just add some glue behind here, and then we're going to layer this on another one of our phone booths. Now we're going to take our pie crust, add glue behind that pop-up foam, and then we just tack this right over. Creating pies is so easy, and I love the look. Let me show you. You see the dimension that that has? Forgive the horrendous nails. Okay, I used some acrylic blocks to help weigh those down, and our pies look good enough to eat. Now I know with this peach pie, I think I'm going to add a little bit more color to the edges here. Just go over the top. Add a little bit of color. like so. Maybe we'll do the same thing to our blueberry. Now I'm going to take my kind of V-shaped die. I'm going to line it up, but when you line it up, you want to make sure that the die here, you can see that cut edge. If you flip it around, you can definitely see those two cut edges, and that's important because you want a full slice. Kind of angle it at the center and then run this through your die cut machine just like this. Now our pie slice is good to go. We're gonna go ahead and add a few extra details to our pies. For the blueberry pie, I know I want to add the blueberries. And what I like to do is kind of offset them all. Let me grab my craft tool here. What I like to do is glue them in a little three-piece cluster, because when I do this, I can put a foam square behind the back. So let me grab a foam square. Actually, you know what? Yeah. We'll put that behind our blueberries. I'll just remove the release paper, and then we can place this in the center here. And then I'm going to add a few leaves. I die cut a few different color of leaves with two different greens, and we'll just do a little tucking. So this is the only pie that's going to have an embellishment on top, but while we're at this, I'm going to add my flower center to this flower, and then we'll put this off to the side. Now is the fun part. We get to add some sugar to our pies. Sugar is going to be created using some glitter. I picked this glitter up from Walmart, and it was just like 99 cents, but it doesn't have any iridescence. It's like a chunky glitter with no iridescence. And I'm going to add that to my pie, but I'm going to use my glazing glue to go over it. And then we'll add some more glitter. Tap off the excess. And then we'll do a little bit on our blueberry. Do a little tapping. I'm doing this now because I want a little bit of time to dry. We'll add some on our blueberry. I'm going to add a little bit on our pie slice also. For this, I'm going to dip our pie slice too, and then we'll do our cherry pie here. Now for my first card, we're going to create our sentiment area. To do that, I have a piece of white cardstock that's in a card front panel, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. But I'm going to change that by taking my paper trimmer, and I'm going to kind of angle it. I want a slight angle, not a very big angle. I'm going to angle off this piece here, and then I have a punch. You can use a die to cut this. On that card, I actually used the punch. And I created a border here. So I just okay. So I used my punch and created a border. Of course, you can use a border die that you have. And then I trimmed down another panel to go on top. Now, a little little tidbit. The reason I did an extra panel for the top of this was because I couldn't get my sentiment perfectly straight. So that was why I have that extra piece of cardstock on top of this. So I'm going to stamp directly on here. And we're going to be using the Perfect Pie Sentiments and Fillings. And I'm going to stamp, You Want a Piece of Me. I think that's cute. It's all one piece, so you don't have to fuss with lining it up. I'm going to add this. I'm going to flip this panel around, and I'm going to use my tape runner, and we're going to adhere this to our card base. I popped this up with some foam tape, and then we're just going to add this all the way to the top of our card base. Wonderful. And then we get to take our pies. I have the blueberry that we just add some glue to. Now, before we add our peach pie, I want to take my serving utensil. I'm going to add glue at the V part of it. And then we're going to tack this right over. I'm going to go ahead and take this. You want to do this, you want to make sure that your sugar is dry. And I'm just going to overlap it. It's so much fun. Now we have a little overhanging. I'm going to use my scissors. And we just have a little bit of this pie overhanging, and then we have a little bit of this pie. I'm going to trim that off. Now, lastly, I have our flower, and we have our little pie piece. I'm going to use some small foam squares. And that will finish off my card that coordinates with the Skyview Pies packaging. A little how-to video. Pretty close. But that will be, that finishes off that card. Now we have one pie left, and we are going to create a pie box. So let's take the pie box. We will tack this down. And if you wanted to skip the stenciling and use a gray pattern paper, you very well could. So there's our background. Now to create the pie box, let's grab those. It's very easy to do. Before we do anything, I'll stamp my sentiment first. And we're going to stamp Hello Cutie is awful nice too, but we're going to make a thank you card. So we'll take thank you. On here, this pie box is wrapped with baker's twine. Now to do that, the easiest way to do it, I'm going to show you how to do. We're going to go ahead and take, you can use tape, but since I have my glue out here, I'm just going to use some glue around the edges on the inside of this window, okay? And then we can add our acetate. I already folded up on the very first score line here. There's 2 score lines on each side of this die cut piece. You'll want to score at the very first score line, because the second score line we're actually going to trim away, like so. The second score line you can see is here. I'm going to use my scissors, and we're just going to trim away that. Basically, we're going to trim away to these edges. You see there? Just trim away at the second square line. This makes a very quick and easy card box. Okay, so we just trimmed away these edges. This is the easy way to do it. Now the edges here, I do want to mention that the edges here are for the pie box if you want to directly adhere it to your panel. You see here? This edge would be tucked underneath here. So you have something to glue onto your card base. So that's why you have those. But we're going to make a full pie box. I wanted a white background, so this is a great way to do it. To create the box, it's very easy. You want to reinforce those score lines on those flaps. You can actually fold them in to make it easier, like so. And then add little dots of glue on each one of those flaps. Now if you're using tape, use tape on each one of these flaps. You see how I folded them in? Let me show you. If see how we folded them in? Put glue on each one of those. And then fold up the opposite side. Hold it and let it grab. You see there? These are flaps with glue. You want to fold in the straight flap and let those attach. These flaps can actually go on the inside or the outside, so there's no right or way. So that is our first box. What we're going to do next is take our pie here. We're going to add some foam behind it. I'm going to use my small squares since they're on my desk. I'm going to remove the release paper. And then we're going to take our pie and put it right inside our box, centering it. We're going to do the same thing with the box that has the windows. Just fold those flaps in. Now what we're going to do is add a little glue to this side, a little glue to this side. Take our box and we are going to cover them. We're going to layer them both together. You might have to push one corner in. I'm going to tie a knot with the baker's twine. So now we have, you see, that helps with the bowed edge. So I tied a knot. Our pie is secure in there. I always said that this would make a cutest ornament ever. Oh my goodness. Or even a tag for a present. I just think, or a pie even. It's so cute. Now I'm going to leave my baker's twine a little bit long because we're going to thread our sentiment through here. Okay. And I'm going to take my silverware and we're going to do a little crisscrossing with it. Looks like my knife's on top. But we are going to crisscross our fork and our knife. I did add a little bit of glue. We're going to and then I'm going to tie my bow right over the top. And for the flower, I'm going to use a gem. I'm going to use the Spellbinders Color Essential Gems. These are red. And I have one big one left. We'll add that to the center of that flower. And our pie box is... Wouldn't that make a cute Christmas ornament? I don't know if I shared this with you already, guys. To make sure that my box stays on my card, since we have that baker's twine, I'm going to use some double-sided tape. But you can use any kind of strong tape that you have. I'm going to remove the release paper. Now this is one of those cards that you probably don't want to mail because of the dimension. I'm going to tack this down right in the center. And that will finish off my second project today. So those are my cards today for Try It Out Tuesday. I want to thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you next Tuesday for another fun video project. And I also want to say, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up because it does help my channel. The more thumbs up I get, I think it pushes me it gives more crafters some view of my work, kind of grows my channel a little bit, which helps me out a lot. But I thank you so much for joining me. Have a great day. We will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.